Hello dear student, I welcome you all in the subject Highway Engineering and the subject code is 1615504. Today we are going to see unit number 4, that is construction of road pavement and material. In construction of road pavement and material, this is your 4th lecture. My name is Daniel Swami. I am lecturer of Civil Department, GEMS Polytechnic College, Aurangabad, Bihar. Let us see the content of the lecture. In construction of road pavement and material, today we are going to see types of soil test for road construction, that is aggregate and the test of aggregate. Let us discuss these topics in detail. Aggregate. Before starting aggregate, we should know aggregate plays an important role while paving a road or laying a road. In construction of road, in any road, aggregate plays a major role as a major ingredient in flexible as well as rigid pavement. Let us see what is aggregate. Aggregate plays an important role in a pavement construction. Aggregate influence a greater extent the load transfer capability for pavement. Hence, it is essential that they should be truly tested before using for construction. Not only that, aggregate should be strong and durable, they should also possess proper shape size to make the pavement act mobilitical. Aggregate are tested for strength, toughness, hardness, shape and water absorption. In this points, it is given that aggregate plays an important role in day-to-day life in construction of road pavement, because aggregate have great influence in the existing and the transferring load capacity of the pavement, as well as it is very essential that they should be tested before using for construction for determining the impact and the crushing value of the aggregate. By that it shows its strength, and if the grade of aggregate will be good, then that indicates that strength of the aggregate will be proper and it can be used for paving roads. And also in construction of road, the shape and size of the aggregate plays an important role. The proper shape of aggregate should be there for making the pavement act mobilitical, as well as aggregate are tested for the strength, toughness and hardness, as well as shape and water absorption. Let us discuss in detail. Test on aggregate. In test on aggregate, we should study about abrasion test, impact test, shape test, specific gravity and water absorption test. These are the tests which we have to study in aggregate, and these are the tests which is given in your syllabus. So you should be focused while studying the test on aggregates. Let us discuss this test in detail. First is abrasion test. As you can see in this image, as per IS 2386 part number 2, this image is given, and this image tells about the abrasion test, and this machine name is Los Angeles, and it is used for abrasion test, that is for hardness properties of aggregate. Abrasion test is carried out to test the hardness properties of aggregate and to decide whether they are suitable for different pavement construction work. Then Los Angeles abrasion test is preferred one for carrying out the hardness property and has been standardized in India, and this abrasion test is used for checking the aggregate hardness. Let us see in detail. Equipment and apparatus. In this test, what are the equipment used for checking the hardness of aggregate, that is Los Angeles machine, sieve 1.7 mm, then cylindrical metal measurement that you can see here in your images. This is the image of Los Angeles. It is a covering pan and steel balls, as you can see here. Then tampering rod, then balancing 0 to 10 kgs, and oven you need for heating the material. Let us see the procedure of Los Angeles. The test sample is dried in an oven for a period of 4 hours at a temperature of 100 to 110 degrees Celsius. The required weight of test sample A is selected conforming to one of the grading mentioned in the table 2 of IS code 2386 part number 4, and this IS code was given in 1963. The test sample and the abrasion charges is to be placed in the machine and rotate at a speed of 20 to 33 rotation per minute. And if there is rotation is 20 to 33 revolution of per minute, then for a grading of A, B, C, D as per table 2nd of IS code 2386 part 4, which was given in 1963, the machine is to be rotated for 1000 revolution. As per grading, the revolution will be preferred, that according to the grade how much revolution we should place. At a completion of the test, the material is discharged from the machine and separated of the sample is made on 1.70 mm sieve. The material coarser than 1.70 mm ISC was dried and accurately weighted at a nearest gram, that is B. Then the difference between the original weight and the final weight of the testing sample is expressed in percentage of the original weight of the testing sample. For finding the abrasion test value, we should calculate according to this formula. As you can see in this image, the abrasion test value is equal to A minus B divided by A and into 100. A is nothing but the material which we have taken. And after weighting that material, we will calculate, we will write the weight as A. Then after crushing inside that Los Angeles, and after the material will come out, we will sieve and take the weight of the aggregates, and that will be B. So A minus B divided by A into 100 will be the formula to find the aggregate abrasion value. Next is impact test. As you can see in this image, falling hammer and this mold and the specimen. This image shows that impact test is nothing but the load is applied from the top upon the specimen for finding the strength and bearing capacity and the resistance on to the impact of aggregate. Let us discuss in detail about this. The aggregate impact test is carried out to evaluate the resistance to impact of aggregate. This is the original machine which is used for impact test. The equipment and the apparatus used for impact test is aggregate impact test machine, sieve 12.5 mm and 10 mm, cylindrical metal measure, tamper rod, balancing 0 to 10 kgs, oven. These are the apparatus used for testing of impact, testing of aggregate by applying load that will resist. Let us see the procedure. Test sample consists of aggregate passing 12.5 mm IS sieve and retained on 10 mm sieve. The aggregate to be tested is dried in a oven for a period of not less than 4 hours. First of all, we should take the sample and we should dry that sample for 4 hours before testing. After drying the sample for 4 hours in oven, now the test will begin. The cylindrical steel cup is filled with 3 equal layers of aggregate and each layer is tampered with 25 stroke by round end of the tampering rod and the surplus aggregate struck off. Using that tampering rod as a straight edge, the net weight of the aggregate is in the cylinder steel cup is determined to the nearest gram is WA. The net weight of the aggregate in the cylindrical steel, by measuring that weight, we will consider as WA, and that will be the initial weight of the aggregate. After that, and this weight of the aggregate is used for the duplicate test of the same material. Then the cup is fixed firmly in the position on the basement of the machine and the whole of the test sample is placed in it, and the compaction by a single tampering of 25 strikes of tampering rod. A hammer is still raised until its lower face is 380 mm above the upper surface of the aggregate in the cup and allowed to fall free onto the aggregate and 15 times, each being delivered at an interval of not less than 1 second. The crushed aggregate is removed from the cup and sieved on 2.36 mm. IS sieve until no further sufficient amount passing in 1 minute. The fraction passing the sieve is weighted to the accuracy of 0.1 gram, that is WB. In this procedure, first of all, what we have to do, we have to take an aggregate, we have to dry for 3 to 4 hours. After that, we have to take the aggregate and fill in the mold by tampering that. We have to fill in 3 layers by tampering by a steel rod of 25 time we should tamper, and we should place layer by layer. After the tampering, we should place that we should take the weight of that mold and that will be the initial weight of that aggregate with mold. Then we should place that mold where the blows will be given for the testing sample, where the hammer will fall, and in the machine you should fix in a position, and in less than 1 second we should give a blow. At least 15 blows it's needed for checking the impact value. Then after that we should take the material and then we have to sieve. After sieving from 2.36 mm sieve, there should be little debris that will fall from that sieve, and that sieve will be weighted as WB. And then the ratio of the weight of the finest form from the total sample weight in the each test is expressed as percentage to be first decimal place, and it will be calculated as aggregate impact value. For calculating the aggregate impact value, we have to take the tested sample, that is WB, by initial sample, that is WA, into 100. This will give you your aggregate impact value, and this is how the experiment will take place and the calculation will be done. If you take 2 to 3 trial, you can get approx impact value of aggregate. Next is shape test. Shape test is all about checking the shape of the aggregate of a particle aggregate mass is to determine the percentage of flakiness and the elongation particle in it. And in shape test it is divided into 2 types, that is flakiness and elongation. Aggregate which are flat or elongated are determined to be highest workability and stability of mixture. Let us discuss about flakiness and elongation test of the particle. Flakiness index. Flakiness index is defined as the percentage by weight of aggregate particle whose least dimension is less than 0.6 times the mean size. The flakiness gauge is used for this test, and this procedure has been standardized in India, that is IS, according to Indian standard IS 2386 part number. First, it explains about flakiness index. As you can see the image of flakiness equipment, this equipment is flakiness equipment. We can check by passing the aggregate from these gaps, as you can see, and the measurement also it's given, that is 60, 70, 50, 50, 70, 40, 40, 70, 35, 25, 10, 20, 20, 10, 16. According to the size varying, it is given in this image, and this equipment used for the test of flakiness test. The apparatus used in this is thickness gauge, sieving, and weight balancing, that is weighting machine. Let us see the test procedure. Procedure of this test is surface dry sample is used for this test. A minimum number of 200 pieces of any specified fraction is required to do this test. A minimum of 200 pieces of each fraction is taken and weighted. In order to separate flakiness material, each fraction is then gauged individually for the thickness on the thickness gauge. The total amount of the flakiness material passing through the thickness gauge is weighed to an accuracy of 0.1% of the weight of the sample. In this procedure, we should take a sample after drying it for 3 to 4 hours. After drying it, at least the sample should contain 12 numbers of small aggregates of any specified shape. After that, take the weight of the sample and then pass one by one aggregate into that elongation, that thickness gauge. After passing it, take the weight of the passing material as well as take the weight of the total material. Total material will be total material weight you can get, and after that you take the weight of the passing material. Then, in order to calculate the flakiness index of entire sample of aggregate, first the weight of each fraction of aggregate passing and retaining on a specified set or sieve is noted. That is y1 plus y2 plus y3 plus it goes on by capital Y1 plus Y2 plus Y3 plus it goes on. This formula is used for calculating the flakiness index, and this formula can be used by taking the weight of the passing aggregate in one side and not passing aggregate in another side. According to the size, you should pass and take the weight, and that will be Y1, Y2, Y3 and Y4. And this is how your flakiness index will be calculated. Next is elongation index. In elongation index of aggregate is defined as the percentage by weight of a particle whose greater dimension length is 1.8 times their mean dimension. This test is applicable to aggregate larger than 6.3 mm. Elongation gauge is used for this test, and this test is also specified in however, there are no recognition limit for the elongation index. In this elongation index, it is the testing machine, that testing gauge which is used to test the length of the aggregate, and this elongation index instrument, as you can see in this image, it is given by Indian standard 2386 part number I. From that, this flakiness and elongation test of shape test were determined. Let us see in detail about elongation index. Equipment and apparatus used is length gauge, sieve, then balance, oven. Procedure of the elongation test is surface dried sample is used for this test, and minimum number of 200 pieces of any specified fraction is required to be tested. As we have seen in flakiness test, same procedure we will follow by passing in between the elongation. That will measure the length of the aggregates, and according to the last flakiness index procedure, the procedure will be the same as we are passing the aggregate in flakiness index, and here we should pass the aggregate in elongation index. And by passing the aggregate, the elongation index also formula is same as flakiness index, that is y1 plus y2 plus y3 divided by capital Y1 plus y2 plus y3. The calculation and experiment of flakiness and elongation index are same, but flakiness index measure the width of the size of the aggregate, and elongation index measure the length of the aggregate. Let us see the summary of this topic. This content highlight about the type of aggregate test for road construction. Aggregate plays an important role in the pavement construction. Aggregate influence to a great extent and the load transfer capability of pavement. Hence, it is very essential that it should be truly tested before using for a construction. This is the summary behind this lecture. Let us see the reference from where I have took this. I have used online source for this lecture, then S.K. Kannan book as well as Ritu publication book. Thank you for listening this lecture.